Thanks for joining us again after dinner. In the next 15 or 20 minutes, I'd like to give you an overview of where we're at in Canobolas, why we do what we do. Then we'll be followed by Senator Jim. You probably don't realise how much of an effect you've had on what we do in Canobolas Zone. I was in the first IMT from New South Wales that went to Victoria in those Victorian fires and went to Kangaroo Ground for a week. So I had some direct involvement as an incident controller in Victoria. And I followed with interest your evidence to the Victorian Royal Commission.
Right. Good on you. It wasn't wasted then.
Definitely not. And your evidence about how it's government's responsibility to ensure that our volunteers are prepared and equipped to cope with those emergencies when they arrive has led us to think and develop the why that we have here in Canobolas Zone. And subsequently, when I did my ICME training in 2011 and my assignments, I did my assignment on the Victorian fires, and your evidence was a prominent factor in that inquiry. As Brett said, we'd like to have a conference each year at the end of the fire season to inform our volunteers and the brigades as to what's been happening for the last year. I thought I'd take the opportunity tonight, seeing we've got Jim Molan here, to really hit home at our message on why we're here. And Simon Sinek said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And we could talk to our community, our volunteers, about what we do all the time, but it's the fact of why. So what and how of Canobolas Zone culture. To us, the culture of what we've been developing here in Canobolas Zone now in the last 17 years is really important to us and our volunteers, and we believe it's a really important as to why we do business. And we've determined that our why here in Canobolas Zone is to prevent our everyday fires and emergencies from becoming disasters. That pretty well sums up to us the purpose of why we exist as an organisation here in Canobolas Zone. And that fits in with what the broader service objectives are about being a world-leading volunteer emergency service. Also, everything we do in this district and the focus of our brigades is to achieve that purpose. In other words, if our activities are not working towards preventing disasters, they're not really part of our everyday activities. And also, a bit of I suppose head office might call this a canobolism. I've been accused of canobolisms from time to time, but we also like to challenge the status quo, and if we can find a new or an innovative way of helping the cause along, we'll have a go at it. So, what we do, we train, resource and equip our volunteers to support them to respond to and deal with everyday fires and emergencies. So it all revolves around our volunteers in what we do. That's the what. The how. First thing, we build relationships and communicate with our volunteers and community and staff to ensure that we all understand why we're here. What's our purpose? Important to us, we empower our people to take control, make decisions, and most importantly, we trust our people to do it. You won't find the IMT in Canobolas Zone second guessing you or questioning you. We empower you and trust you to do the job that you need to do. And hopefully we seek to inspire our volunteers and people to achieve this purpose. And most importantly, develop that culture, which is most important. So we recently had a fire at Canobolas, which was quite a significant fire to us. So that was a significant fire. It broke a paradigm of ours of always being able to get on top of our fires hard and fast and quick with a lot of resources because of the time of day that fire started, right on dark, which didn't allow us to access aircraft that first evening. But we were able to, because of our planning and our methods of operation, I believe over the ensuing week, with that fire and also the Bellarada Creek fire, the great work of our volunteers and our brigades and the commitment that everyone put in, I think we can look back safely and say we truly prevented that fire from being a disaster. Think back to 2003 when the Canberra fires happened. I know our Bushfire Management Committee looked at Mount Canobolas immediately after those Canberra fires, and we looked at all the vegetation which was growing up next to our communications towers there, and we made a decision that we had to do something about it. So between our agents, with all the stakeholders on the mountain, we raised some $140,000 from Broadcast Australia and ABC and Prime and Win and all the participants up there. And we put a big asset protection zone around all that infrastructure up there, carted away the debris and basically made that communications on top of the mountain safe. We had to wait 15 years to get the payoff, but I look back on that time now and I think, wow, wasn't it great that we took that proactive decision back in 2003 to do that work? Because with this fire, it was in an urban type interface on the side of the mountain, impacted on a lot of homes. Our brigades believed that they wouldn't be able to protect all the properties, but miraculously the great work did protect everything. We protected the infrastructure. We kept Cadia mine open and they didn't have to close because of the intrusion of smoke. So we look back on that fire and it was truly a positive experience. To change our way of thinking, it's when you have a disastrous type event, we look at the fact that should change our thinking and should inspire us to make sure that we don't repeat that event again. And we don't necessarily have to have that event ourselves. We should be able to look at what happens elsewhere and learn from that and benefit from that experience. So the Victorian fires, you know, they were a major incident back there in 2009, and as I said in the introduction, you know, it has played a really significant part in our minds as to how we operate in this environment we live in now. You know, the Sir Ivan's fire is another event that happened back in 2017, which had a significant impact on that community. And I would hope that those communities learn the lessons and change their processes as a result. Our experience was in 2001 when we had the Goobang fire, when we burnt our 16,000 hectares. All that private country between Goobang and Yeovil went up. Thankfully we lost no houses, but we lost a lot of agricultural country, we lost a lot of stock. And I look back on that event, and it was probably the turning point for how we've developed as a zone over the years. And we have been much better off because of it and the lessons that we learned from it. If we hadn't have had that event, we wouldn't have progressed to the thinking that we have now. So Goobang was a major significant fire. And for a number of years there, it was a magic word really, because if you mention Goobang, it came with all sorts of extra funding and opportunity, and that sort of thing. So we've got 4 priorities here. One is leading a volunteer workforce, most important. Number 2, risk management and hazard reduction, critical. Response and preparedness, we've got our own mantra that we've developed along the way on that. And then developing infrastructure to support our volunteers. So everything basically focuses around those 4 key areas. So in terms of leading a volunteer workforce, Gumtree meetings, absolutely great. We've been doing these now since 2003. As Brett said earlier, we try and do 8 or 10 or 12 a year over a couple of weeks, and they're all about empowering our people, developing trust, and building relationships with our volunteers, because most importantly, we have to trust you and you have to trust us. And these work wonderfully in that regard. Just a recent meeting, we introduced our director, Rebel, to our Gumtree meeting process, and she attended one in Norm's Woolshed back in April, which was very, very good. So, systems and culture. What's that Canobolas culture? We've got down pat now what some of our systems and that are. That's a slightly earlier version of our response code. The latest one's up here on the wall. But you know, as volunteers in Canobola Zone, that you can expect a certain thing to happen from the office here once certain fire conditions happen, and you know what sort of response we're going to get. We've consulted with our volunteers and communities to achieve that result, and really in the empowering side of it, you know, we've made a promise to the public we'll do certain things, and those final decisions that have been made to put this plan into place have all been supported by the community and the brigades at the end of the day. We've got a plan. We make no excuses about it. We want to be the highest performing district. We want the best on-ground fire management. If we don't aspire to those things, we won't get there. So we make no secrets of the fact that we want to do the very best we can to protect our community. Our values and strategies with our volunteers, it's the trust, it's the relationships, it's the empowering, it's the planning, the delegating, it's the communication, and it's most importantly, again, developing that culture. So the second pillar, risk management, hazard reduction. We like to challenge the status quo, as I said. That map to us now in this district is the centre of our risk management plan. It's an appendix to it. It took us 4 years to get it approved, but to us it's an important part of how our community relates to risk management and what it means to our brigades. We like to do hazard reduction. The boys are out there today trying to get some burns done. We have all sorts of impediments with the weather and so forth, and as Brett mentioned earlier, we're a little bit behind in where we would like to be at the moment, but over the last 8 or 9 years we're pretty well spot on with our targets of overall where we're supposed to be. But in the next few years we've got to build up that buffer again that we developed back 10 and 15 years ago to really get some more work done. But we'd much rather prefer having the good fires to the bad ones that razz the landscape and totally destroy everything in front of it. So this is the latest version, up-to-date version of our response code. It dictates what we do, how we do it, and we believe that our brigades are right on side with supporting the concepts in this and ensuring we get the best response as quickly as we possibly can. So here's the Canobolas fire. We've just got a short video to play here. So as you can see, aircraft did play a major role in that fire, and we're very thankful to State Operations and the Air Desk for the wonderful support that we got. The fact that we had the VLAT and the LATs and the Chinook and all those big aircraft for a number of days to help us manage this fire, so that we could slow the fire, steer the fire to achieve those burning operations that we needed to do to put that containment in place. So we really appreciate that assistance, and we're working with Sam and his company to use the footage that we gained through that fire to develop some training videos and some documentary footage and so forth to show how the fire worked, how it was managed, and we look back and really, as much as we don't like big fires in our district, I think this fire did us a favour in that it got our volunteers to exercise what we've been training in for the last 10 or 15 years. We hadn't had a big fire like this for basically since Goobang in 2001-2, and to take away any complacency that might have been developing and exercise and hone our skills. And in terms of the fact that it was so close to Orange, it provided a great visual entertainment for the city each night. Definitely raised the profile of the RFS in this community, and I think we're very appreciative for that. And the fact that the community then put on at Robertson Park back in early May, a public thank you day to all the agencies for the work they did in that fire, and the other fire at Fremantle was a great testimony to all the great work that everyone did. So our plan has got a couple of clear objectives. Empower our volunteers to prevent our everyday fires and emergencies from becoming disasters. And the things we do: proactive planning and preparation, rapid heavy weighted response, local control managed by our volunteers, inform communities, and providing appropriate public warnings. We reckon that sums up how we respond, together with what we send each day according to what the fire danger index of the day is. And our fourth pillar is infrastructure to our volunteers, and we're quite proud of the fact that we've had significant station budgets for the last couple of years, and we started off this financial year with 2.9 million in the budget to spend on stations. We've done a lot of work, and we've noticed a great benefit to our brigades, and the enthusiasm, the preparedness of our volunteers, the increased interest in a brigade when we build a new station or upgrade their facilities, which has been really positive. That's the new Springside station, which we opened back in October. Currently, our current project, we're working on 13 extensions. That's where we add a meeting room, a kitchenette and a toilet, bathroom facilities to a station. So the white ones down the left-hand side have been completed. The two in red on the right are currently under construction. And then in terms of new stations, new standard design stations, there's 20 in this current program. All the ones in white have been completed, including a new state mitigation shed here at this site. And in progress at the moment, we've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on the right-hand side, which should all be finished by about, or all except Baldry will be finished by about October. Baldry should be finished by Christmas time because it's in the next financial year. But that's 33 stations that we've basically upgraded in basically a 4-year period. So I don't believe that there's any other district that has had that access to funding and been able to achieve that result. To show you some of the benefits, this is the old Mandurama station on the highway in Mandurama, 3-bay station, no facilities. A couple of weekends ago we opened the new station. We still have to do the bitumen pad at the front, but a 3-bay station with facilities, a great asset to that community, all done for a budget of approximately $260,000, which we think is pretty good value for money. The old Spring Hill station, we couldn't supply Mandurama or Spring Hill with a new truck because they wouldn't fit in the station. So they've had their old stations removed and new ones replaced. That's the old Spring Hill one. This is the new one, opened on the same day as Mandurama. Still have to do the bitumen pad. $240,000 for that job. Good value for money. And just the positive impact that those two stations have had on those brigades has been enormous. And we go back to Springside, that earlier photograph, they had something like 24 new members join that brigade through the process of building that station for them. Wadamandara, that was opened back in February, March. Wadamandara didn't have a station before. Chaucer, that's a new station for Chaucer. They didn't have one before either. Great and positive benefits for those brigades. New tankers, we've gone light on tanker replacement in the last couple of years because we've accessed increased funding for stations. But at the Spring Hill opening, the Spring Hill Brigade was presented with the new truck to fit into that new shed because we had to finish the shed to put the truck in because it wouldn't fit in the old one. So that was really good for Spring Hill. So, back to our values again. Those 4 pillars fitting around why we do building that trust, the relationships, empowerment of volunteers, all towards developing our culture, that we work to put out our fires as quickly as possible, and most importantly, prevent them from becoming disasters. So that's basically the philosophy that we have here at Canobbla Zone. That's why I come to work every day. I hope that's why the rest of my staff come to work every day, to achieve those same results. We're very fortunate that we've got a great crew. We're all committed to the same purpose, and I'd like to thank them for their contribution to this last 12 months and all the good things that have happened here in Canobbla Zone. So, thank you everyone. That's the Canobbla Zone story.